All right, so what I was going to do today is review the verbs that we did last time, or at least the form. Sounds like everybody's studied, so that's good. I don't know, Irene, do you feel confident doing the paradigm? If not, that's okay. I don't want to...
Lego, leggies, Lego, leggies, leggy, Lego man, leggite, legacy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that covers pretty much all of the paradigms. So, yeah, I think everybody here knows that. So I'm just going to write it on the board for people that are watching abroad. You've got Lego, which means I speak or I say. You got legis, which would be you speak or you say, singular you. And then legi, which would be he, she, it, says or speaks. And then we've got legomen, which would be we speak or we say. Legete, which would be you plural, speak or say. And then we've got legusi or seen, and that is they speak or they say. So just a little bit of review. Make sure that you remember that and memorize it, because we're going to see a lot of different verb forms, and it's really easy to get lost once things get difficult. So we're switching gears a little bit today. We're looking at chapter 4 in the book. And if anybody's watching this after the fact, just let me know, and I can send you a copy of the chapter. But so nouns are kind of interesting in Greek because, of course, they have the declensions. They have case endings, which is common in languages like Latin and I think Church Slavonic and Russian. I think they have case endings as well. So this is something that you see across the gamut in a lot of different languages. And it can be kind of a challenge because in English we're not used to that kind of thing. We're not used to having case endings. So what it really does, though, is it tells us what the subject is in the sentence, what the direct object is, and what the indirect object is. So to illustrate that, if I have a sentence, actually, let me hold it there. If I have a sentence like, I throw the ball to Tom. Okay? There's a verb here. The verb would be throw, right? And the verb is something that's being acted upon. So, or it's being acted by. So it's being acted by the subject, which would be I. This would be the verb. And then it's acting on the ball. This would be the direct object. And the indirect object, the one who's not being acted upon, but he's kind of getting the result of the direct object, would be the indirect object. And so in the context of our chapter, when we're talking about cases, what we're talking about is the nominative, which would be the subject. Then the verb is not a noun, so we just skip that. And then the direct object would be accusative. And the indirect object would be dative. Okay, now what's interesting in Greek is that you can flip these around, because how you determine what is the subject, what is the direct object, and what is the indirect object is going to be determined by the ending of the word. Whereas in English, it's kind of how it shows up in the sentence. It's not very fluid in English. You kind of have one way that you can do it. In Greek, you can flip the words around. So just as an example, right, if I gave these Greek endings, I could say ball, and then this would have omicron noon at the end, right? And then Tom would have an omega with a iota subscript. Now the iota subscript is something that you want to take note of. It's not something that you pronounce. It's just something that gets written. I think in classical Greek you can pronounce it. It's kind of like a subtle oi type of sound. But in modern Greek pronunciation, you don't pronounce it, but you do write it. And in a sentence, that's going to be kind of a telltale sign that you're dealing with the dative. Does all of that make sense to everybody? Okay. So this is what it's going to be like in the masculine as well as the neuter, which is our second declension. So if we were to...
Is there a subscript?
Yeah.
Is that only in the singular?
Yeah, that's it could be because in the in the so if I said like the men, right? If I were to make this plural, right, then it would be ois, or is, ois, I was thinking the old, classical, is, So here, let me see if you guys can see it. So it'd be is, menis, okay? So you notice that the iota still gets incorporated, it's just not subscripted. So typically, typically, so
the subscript doesn't happen with omicron, it's only with omega.
With long vowels, right? Because in the feminine, right, the feminine, the iota subscript is under the eta. In the dative,
Not the short vowel.
right? Because it's like ace, right?
So it's almost like a contraction.
Yeah, and so that's something that you might want to jot down because you see it too, like with third declension. I know I'm getting kind of out there now, but like third declension, right? If you have like spirit, right? What's the dative of pneuma? Is pneumati. Mm-hmm. There's the iota. The iota is your sign of the dative.
Okay.
Right, and then omicron is going to give you more of that genitive, right? Pneumatos, right? So, sarkos for sarks. So that's for people watching at home. When you see the iota in the plural or the iota subscript in the singular, that's going to be your telltale sign that you're dealing with the dative. So hopefully that all makes sense. If anybody is confused, again, just text me, email me, have me explain it to you again. Because it is kind of, again, difficult for people that haven't learned a language that does this. But let me go ahead and write out the paradigms. So the paradigms for the masculine and the neuter are pretty similar, but there are a few differences. So if we have masculine, and that's another thing too. Greek has masculine, feminine, and neuter nouns, whereas like some languages like Spanish, they just have masculine and feminine. I think, does Latin have neuter as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Latin has neuter. Yeah. So so masculine, we've got. I'll just do logos, since that's one of our vocab words. People generally know that word. So logos would be nominative. And then we have genitive. So we talked about the dative being the indirect object and the accusative being the direct object. Genitive shows possession. So logos would be like a word if it was the subject. And then logu would be the genitive ending, that would be like of a word or belonging to a word, right? So you could say like aletheia tu logu would be like the truth of the word, something like that, right? Because in English we have the word of, which is kind of our helper, but in Greek it is determined by this ending, okay? So and then we have the dative, which we know from the example, right? It's logo with that iota subscript, and then accusative is going to be logon. Okay? So logos, logu, logo, logon. And pretty much like every Bible college, like, you know, that's like a chant that they do every day, you know. Really trying to get that in. So you do want to memorize this, you know, because it's something that, you know, if you don't get it quickly, it's very, very difficult to read anything. Yeah, because this is kind of your building block of a sentence, and I'll kind of show you why that is in a second. So this is the singular, and we can do the plural here. All right, so here we would have logi, like that, okay? And then we would have logon, like that, okay? And then we would have logis, and then logus, okay? And that's going to be our main paradigm for the masculine. Now the neuter, let's see, what's a neuter vocab that they put in there?
Or doron is a good one.
Doron, okay, yeah. So neuter, the genitive and the dative are going to be the same. And technically the accusative and the singular. So what you have, if you have doron, like that, in the nominative, and then genitive, it's going to be the same kind of thing. Doru, okay. And then dative, doro, okay. And then the accusative is going to be the same as the nominative, so it's just going to be doron, again like that. So this is something that can be kind of confusing if you're new to this kind of thing, that the nominative and the accusative are going to have the same form in the neuter. And so,
Talk about the accent on.
yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a circumflex. It's nothing too crazy. But yeah, when it's like on a situation like this, I think when it's a long syllable at the end.
Yeah, they're showing acute on the genitive, I assume.
On the genitive?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, because this is long right here. Yeah, I see.
Is it based on the length of the vowel or the length of the syllable?
The length of the syllable. Yep. This is technically a long syllable in in classical Greek. Yeah. Thanks for catching that, Tony. Yeah.
So it's circumflex when it's a short.
Yes. Yeah. Which again, I mean, if you're not writing it, it's not the biggest deal, because you'll know what it says when you read it. Yep. So the plural for neuter is going to have an alpha at the end. Okay. But then you know, the plural endings are still going to be the same. So you've got dor, doron. And then you've got doris and dora. Okay? Does that all make sense? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think. So yeah, that's your paradigms for masculine and neuter. Is there anything that's unclear that you want me to go over? Okay, cool. So I might just leave this up just so people can see it online. And let me look on here quickly. Okay. Just to make sure I got my accents correct. But again, the accents, it's mostly about reading because, again, if you're not writing Greek, it's not the biggest deal. The main thing is to be able to read it and understand it.
Is there in modern pronunciation any difference in pronunciation between the acute?
No, it's just an accent.
Stress.
All three of them are the same.
Yeah, all three of them are the same. Yeah. So, yeah, in I think it's chapter 2. They talk about how there's the acute, the circumflex, and the grave. Yeah, or the grave. I think originally, this was kind of like a intoned. You kind of go up, and this was But again, maybe if you're reciting Homer, it might matter a little bit more. But for what we're doing, it's not a huge deal.
There might be a few words where the accent determines whether
That's
it has
true.
one meaning.
That's true.
or
Yeah,
another.
and the breathing marks, and we'll get to that and how to identify that later.
Yeah.
That's one of the strengths of classical pronunciation is that it's meant to preserve those differences, so that you can more easily identify it.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't break
It's the
anything.
same pattern with classical Latin versus ecclesiastical, and
Yeah,
I teach the classical because
Yeah.
it makes more sense of the spelling.
Definitely,
and
yeah.
describing.
yeah. Rather than like the C sound turning into like a CH kind of. Yeah, no, I understand. Still modern Greek is still pretty phonetic, but the Erasmian pronunciation is purposefully it's very strictly phonetic. But before we get into the reading exercises, I'd like to go through the vocabulary because pretty much all of these other grammatical forms we've pretty much gone over. So we'll get to that when we get there. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have everybody one by one read through one of the vocab words. Again, practicing the accent, accenting the word on the right place, and again, aiding our pronunciation. So, Tony, I'll have you start with the first one. Just say it, and then try to say it with the article too.
So, Adelphos is a brother. Ho Adelphos is the brother.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So just be careful with the D. It's the.
Adelphos.
Adelphos. Yeah. Yep. And then
Adelphos.
exaggerate the accent just so you. Yep. Okay, Carrie.
Anthropos,
Yep. And then with the article before it.
Oh, ho anthropos.
Yeah.
The man.
Yeah. And you can add the rough breathing if you want, but that's fine. Okay, Irene.
Ho apostolos, an apostle, or the apostle.
Yes, very good. Okay.
Doulos, a slave. Ho doulos, the slave.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about apostolos and doulos. Which again, it's great that we have a Latin person here because You can see the functionality very similarly. I'm going to go ahead and erase this so I can illustrate some things. So, again, I'm not super well versed in Latin, but I know conceptually some of these things. So, like the word emissary and apostolos are basically the same. They mean essentially the same thing. So the Latin is that emissarius. Is that what that would be?
I'm not really familiar with the noun, but
Okay.
that sounds right.
Yeah, because it comes from, e would be the prefix, right, meaning out of, and then you've got the verb. I think it's mittere. I think. Yep.
And the participle is missus.
Missus. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So sent. Yeah. A very similar thing with apostolos. So the prefix, and we'll get to this later on, but apo means away from, that you're, and then stolos comes from a verb, which is stelo, which means I send out, So apostolos means somebody who's sent out. All right, so that ends up being just a way to think about it, because it's, an apostle, that's kind of our transliteration of it, but it does mean something, and it's, I think, the best way to describe it, because some people say envoy or things like that. I think emissary is probably the best translation for that, so that's how I want you guys to translate that. So if you want to cross out apostle on there, or maybe not cross it out, just right next to it, emissary.
Change it, the English down.
Yeah, to emissary. Just so you get the functionality of it, Because, it's in Greek, that's what it means. Somebody sent out on a mission.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And then doulos for my Latin friend. Does that all make sense? So doulos is identical in meaning to servus. Yeah. So servus, it sounds like servant, but correct me if I'm wrong, it's more like a slave, right? You've got dominus and servus, yeah? Doulos, it's a very similar thing. So instead of dominus in Greek, you've got kyrios, but it's that same Roman household kind of cultural thing where you have the Lord, the dominus, and the servus, the slave. So I would say just cross out servant on there, because servant is kind of it's weaker. It's weaker than how doulos really functions in Greek. Because you have weaker words for servant like diakonos, right, which is more of like a table servant, kind of like a waiter,
The Latin word
perhaps.
minister is the same as
Yes, exactly, yeah. And I think minister, the English word minister from that Latin word gets used to translate diakonos. And that's the word where we get deacon from, for those that can follow the etymology. So just wanted to point that out, just a few changes that I would appreciate. So apostolos, translate it to emissary. Doulos, just stick with slave. So again, it has more power that way, and it more fleshes out the connection or the relationship between the Kyrios and his doulos.
So we hear, the slave of God
Yeah.
takes the body and blood of Christ. Or however
Yeah.
It's usually servant, right? But
Yeah.
it's the word doulos in Greek. Right?
It is, yeah.
Is it? What is the feminine, the handmaid of God? Is it the same word?
That is a good question.
I think it's just
That
Yeah, it is Lula.
Idula, okay, yeah. So I didn't know that, because I know in Latin there's not like a feminine for servus, right?
There is, but it's not commonly used.
It's usually ancilla, yeah.
Ancilla,
Yeah, ancilla, yeah. So there's our two pronunciations clashing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, so technically it should be when you receive communion, it should be the slave of God. But again, we don't like that terminology. It sounds a little too harsh. But
America has a little bit of a history.
yeah, exactly. And not that we should condone Roman slavery either. But again, it's part of the culture, though. We're reading the New Testament, which is a text that came out of Roman culture. Yeah. So, and then it's also, of course, it's directly tied to a word in Hebrew. Sorry to bring up Hebrew, but Hebrew, the word eved, right, for slave, and actually that word in Hebrew too, it means to worship to do like worship rites, rites. So it's that relationship between the slave and the master, eved. Yeah. So if you guys want to write it down, it's a good one to remember. Eved. Technically, if you want to be, you can it's eved with the guttural because it's an ayn. But and then in Arabic, you've got abd, right? Like Abdullah, right? Slave of God. Yeah. So this, unambiguously means slave. This is the same word that's used for the Israelites when they're enslaved by the Egyptians. And it's really interesting in Hebrew where God says, release. He's through Moses telling Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of slavery so that they can be his slaves in the desert. Yeah. And it uses, in both cases,
So why did
the same
Boaz
root.
and Ruth name their son Obed?
It's a different culture. Because it's
in Greek,
yeah.
you have people named the slave of Christ.
Yeah.
Christodoulos.
Yeah,
That's true.
Christodoulos, yeah.
Sounds a little better than just doulos, though.
Yeah. Obed, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's
Somebody
still,
that's pious, maybe
yeah.
it goes without saying that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, that he's like, because it was a good thing to be a slave to God,
Right.
It's, again, we have such a stigma about it in our modern
slave to
culture.
something.
Exactly, you're a slave to something, and the idea in the Bible, it doesn't have the American view of freedom. It's you're free from all of the other gods so that you can be God's slave, essentially, which is not a bad thing if you want to be, religious, right? So there's that. Okay, so Doron, again, nothing too crazy about that. It's in a lot of names, like Theodore, right? Gift of God, common thing there. Thanatos, we know that word from Pascha. And then athanatos, if you put the negation at the beginning, would be without death or immortal, right? Agios athanatos, right? In the Trisagion. So Ieron, temple. Ieron technically means like sacred. So I would maybe draw a slash and right next to it, sacred.
As a noun or an adjective?
Yeah, like a sacred place or a sacred thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is used as an adjective. Like sometimes, like I have a little gospel book I should bring sometime that's in Greek, and it's like a little handheld thing. But it says to ieron ke theon evangelion. So the sacred and divine gospel. So K and, that's pretty simple enough. Logos, again, we kind of talked about it last time, that it comes from the verb. You guys remember what verb it came from? Or what that it's related to? Lego, yeah, exactly. And then, logos came to mean a word in Greek, but originally, it had a concept of, organizing things together, categorizing things, which is where you get the logic from. Logic is pattern recognition, essentially. And so all of those things are going to kind of come together. Because there's an interesting part where Peter, in one of the letters that he wrote, I think it's the first one, where he says, "Be prepared to make an account for the hope that is in you," or make an apology for the reason of the hope that is in you. And the account or the apology, right, that's from that same root. It's apologia, right? And then for the reason, ton logon, of your hope. So, it's not just a word. It's got that broader sense to it. So, next to word, I would write reason and explanation. It can be. It can also be account, like not just a spoken word, but it could be like a whole story, right? O logos God o tu stavru, the word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, right? He's not just saying that when you say cross, like that's the power in it. No, he's saying that what the cross represents, right?
Is there a reason why we so typically translate it as word in English?
It's simple, I think. I think it's just like, that gets really difficult. Like, it's a difficult word to translate, and Jerome had that problem when he was trying to do the Vulgate. And I think that he landed on verbum, but he had a hard time trying to use a Latin word to capture the span of that Greek word, which you really can't.
Is there another word used for word?
Yeah, there are.
Which is what's more common?
Well, no, logos is more common. I'm drawing a blank on the other one.
Is it?
It starts with an epsilon. Gosh, I can't remember what it is now.
I
Yeah,
think I know.
yeah.
It's from
It's
Ipe, right?
no. That's it's the utterance. No. It starts with a rho. It's rima. Rima.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another word for word, but more technically, it's an utterance, right?
Whereas this is more technically.
Yeah. I would. Word is a fine translation. It's just, it's not bound by that. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to-
And this
Be-
is also
yeah.
influenced by the Neoplatonic, the concept of the logos, right?
Not in Paul. And so that's
In Paul, it's just
in Paul.
straight up word.
Well, in Paul, I would say, because Paul, that's another discussion, but Paul uses logos very technically. And that gets lost on translations because...
I mean, the logos is simply the personification of reason, right? Of the word of... No?
I'm going to say no, but we can talk about that later. Because, again, it's very technical in Paul. Because, again, you have that statement that he uses in 1 Corinthians. He uses logos all the time to describe not specifically Jesus as an individual, but about the story of Jesus or the cross or the message of Jesus, right? Yeah. And so that kind of becomes tricky, Are Paul and John talking about the same thing? That's another discussion. But yeah, I would just say, be careful not to impose too much of the Hellenistic idea of logos, which is
John,
yeah.
no, I get
It's related. It's related. I don't want to just completely denounce
the way
it.
Paul writes, you don't get
Yeah.
that impression that he's using it
No,
in that
yeah,
sense.
and my argument would be John's using it the same way as Paul, but that's another discussion. But yeah, we should talk about it. We should talk about it sometime. But that's another discussion. I just want to make it clear though that logos again it's very technical. So yeah, for right now, just word, message, and reason I think are good places to start.
What's in having learned the joyful message, is that, I wonder if that
It might
uses-
it might be, but it might be Angelia.
Ah,
You know.
that it is.
Yeah.
The joyful message.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry about the aside on logos, but it's an interesting discussion because it's so theologically heavy. So you just got to be careful a little bit about it. Okay, nomos, law. Typically, nomos is describing the Torah of the Old Testament, but not always. So I would just say law is fine. Law / Torah, I would say. So if you want to write a slash and write Torah down. Okay. Then ecos. Ecos is pretty easy to remember if you think of like economy, economia, right? That has the sense of like stewardship, like house stewardship. Actually, economos is a mix of ecos and nomos. Yeah, okay. So it's like house law, but in broader terms, it's like stewardship, right? And then eos is son. Eos is something that you get a lot, obviously, in the New Testament because of Christ.
There's also ecos and logos, ecology, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, logia can be the study of, yeah. Yes. So that's our vocab. And then I just want to say really quickly before we move on, I believe, yeah, okay, so we're not really using in the exercises, we're not using the definite article, which is the word the for people that are listening and might not know that terminology. Greek doesn't have an indefinite article, and that would be like the word a. So when you're translating these, I'll just say the first one, adelphos vlepi anthropon on page 27. You don't want to say like, the brother sees the man, You want to say, a brother sees a man, if that makes any sense. So there's no indefinite article that's written, but it's implied. So I did number 1. Is everybody at page 27?
Yep.
Okay,
40.
45.
So the number
Yeah, the
is
page
not the
numbers,
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
We have to go by section.
Okay.
All right, so Tony, let's have you read number 2 and then translate it for me.
Doulos graphi logos. The slave writes.
Not, hey, what did I just say?
Sorry. The slave writes writes words.
Words, yes. Writes words, not the words,
Yeah.
just words, yes. Okay. All right, Carrie.
Apostoli didaskusin anthropon. Apostles were, emissaries.
There you go.
They teach men. Amen.
Amen. Yes, amen. Okay. Irene, do you want to give it a try? Number 4?
Apostoli, Leusi, Zulus.
Okay, you want to translate it for me?
Apostles, loose, slaves.
Yes. Yeah. Or yeah, loose or free slaves, release slaves. Yep. Very good. Okay. Jeremy, number 5.
Doulos lambani dora.
Undo.
A slave
Undo. That's
takes gifts.
Yep. Good. Okay.
Lamvanusin we icus.
So, yeah, I would pronounce
We.
E.
Oh, sorry. E.
Yeah. It's weird, I know, because it's two diphthongs kind of next to each other. E. Yep.
E.
E.
Lamvanusin E icus.
Mm-hmm.
Sons take. Is it have or take?
Well, it could receive.
Receive?
Yeah. Receive is probably better.
That's passive, though.
Yeah, they are receiving.
Is there something that would, yeah, that...
Well, I know.
is like
Yeah.
active?
Well, let's look back at our vocab. Let's see how they take. Yeah, take. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's yeah. Okay, you can use take since that's what the book has.
Well, there might, yeah,
Yeah.
no, there
Yeah, take, receive.
might be something in there that...
Because I think of the modern Greek kataleveno means like I understand,
yeah,
which is kind of
sure.
like I receive what you're saying.
Yeah, get it.
Yeah.
Get.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah. I get.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
sons get houses.
That works. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that works. Creative. Okay, number 7. Carrie.
Doulos ke icus lambanusin adelphi.
Just remember the
Adel.
try to get the delta.
Yeah.
I know. I'm being a little bit of a stickler, but
Well, I'm gonna drive you crazy.
I know.
Because
I know.
can't- I just.
I know. That's okay. Yeah.
Doulos. So slaves and houses.
Well, what's the subject?
And okay, so hold on a second.
You're okay.
Slaves and brothers.
No.
A slave.
No. Which one's in the nominative in number 7?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Start the sentence with that.
no, I got it.
Yep.
A brother
Mm.
takes slaves and houses.
A brother? Just one brother in number 7?
Oh, brothers.
There you go.
Plural.
Yeah, there you go. See, there's, for people listening, there's an example of where the word order is odd, right? Because Greek, as well as Latin, I believe, because the orientation of the nouns is determined by the ending, you can arrange the sentence pretty much however you want, and oftentimes it's used for emphasis. So in a sentence like this, the emphasis is on the slaves and the houses, right? Whereas in English, we always tend to emphasize the subject. That's how we know it's the subject, typically. Okay. So number 8, I believe, is Irene. Yep.
Liberman ira ke apostolos. We see temples and apostles.
Yeah, great. Okay, number 9.
Doulos. Oh,
Wait,
sorry.
Jeremy.
Lulus vlepete ke adelphus. Ye see slaves and brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, very good job. Okay, number 10.
Graphis logon apostolo. You write a word to the emissaries.
Not
No,
not the and not plural.
sorry, two emissaries. Oh, it's not plural. Two
And
and
there you
emissaries.
go. Yep.
Which one was that?
10. You write a word to an apostle.
Yep. Okay. Number 11.
Didaski anthropon. So, anthropon is in the accusative.
Yes.
So, Hishirit teaches a man.
Well, yeah. Yes. Yes.
There's no subject.
Yeah, right, yes.
It's
Yeah.
implied
Yep.
in the-
No, you're good. Yep. You're good. Okay, number 12, Irene.
Adelphos legi logon apostolo. An apostle
Oh,
of an emissary.
oh, what's the subject of number 12?
It's Adelphos, right?
Adelphos, yeah, which is not emissary, it's,
Oh,
there you go.
a brother.
There you go.
A brother speaks words to an apostle.
So, speaks many words or
Speaks a word.
speaks a word. There you go. Very good. Okay, number 13, Jeremy.
Adelphos apostolon ginoski nomon. The brother of the apostles knows the law. A law.
Ayla. There you go. Yes.
The brother of apostles knows the law.
Yeah, there you go. Very good. Okay, 14, Tony.
Vuli
Yeah.
noscusi nomon ke lamvanusi lora. So, slaves know a law and receive or take a gift.
A gift?
Gifts, plural.
Yep. Yeah, because that's the neuter plural.
That's right.
Dora.
It would be Doron if it's singular.
If it's singular, yep. And then just remember that one's neuter's kind of tricky because the nominative and the accusative are going to look identical. Okay. 15, Carrie.
Ginos gusin anthropi thanaton. Men know death.
Yep. Oh yeah, death or a death. Yeah.
Death.
Yeah. Okay. Irene, number 16.
Lamvanomen lora ke ekumen adelphos.
Yep, just watch the echomen, not echumen. But yeah, that was good. Okay, and what does it mean?
We take gifts and have brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Cool.
Apostolis ke vulis legomen logus thanatu. We speak words of death
It's very, very joyful.
to the emissaries and slaves.
Yeah, perfect.
Not very kind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we should sugarcoat the Bible, because it's not. If you sugarcoat it, that kind of defeats the purpose. No. All right, number 18.
Adelphi ke vuli ginoscusin ke vlepusin iera ke dora. Brothers and slaves know and see temples and gifts. So,
Yes. Yep.
They're doing a lot there.
Yeah. No, it's good because the more you guys practice reading, the better it is, right? Which is why I like this book. Most grammar books, they just tell you the rules, and you never get to use it. And this is better than like a written exercise because it forces you to speak it and try to figure out what's being said in real time. So 19, whoever's next, I think that's,
I think.
yeah, you, yeah.
Graphi apostolos nomon ke legi logus qui
Is
dulu.
Dulu. Yeah.
I just want to say that with breathing words. Okay, so an apostle writes
There you go.
a law
Yep.
and speaks words
Mm-hmm.
to sons
Mm-hmm.
of slaves.
A slave. If it was
Of a
slaves, it'd be
slave. Of a slave,
dhulon. Yeah,
it's singular.
singular. Of a slave. Yeah. Very good. Okay, Irene, 20. You get the last one.
E apostolon.
So that was good. And because you're doing so well, I'm going to nitpick you. Try the second word again. Remember, think about the accents.
Oh, apostolon.
Apostolon, yeah. Again, I want you guys to exaggerate. You know, so if you exaggerate it, it's going to get within you. You know. Okay, so try it again.
E apostolon.
There you go.
Legacy, logos, cat, legacy, ludus.
Yeah, try it one more time. Yeah, that was good. I just want,
E
yeah, I want to hear you do it again.
apostolon, legacy, logos, cat, legacy, ludus.
Yeah. Okay, and what does it mean?
Sons of apostles speak words and free slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, you loose slaves, but yeah. Yeah, yeah. Good. All right, yeah, that went really well. That's lesson 4. So good job, guys. What?
We're not going to do the English degree.
We can if you guys want to.
It's always harder.
You guys, I mean, we're out of time, so I won't.
Yeah.
But that's a good practice, though, if you guys want to try and do the English to Greek. Maybe write it down and bring it next time, and we can go over it. Because that helps too. That kind of helps apply what you've learned. But yeah, does anybody have any last minute questions about declensions?
Nope, good.
All right. Okay. Good. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on when's the next one? It's early April. Yeah. So we're taking 2 weeks off. So hopefully that's ample time to get caught up for anybody who's listening to this after the fact.
Are we doing the first and third, or what?
First and third. Yeah.
First and third.
Yeah. Cool, guys.
Thanks, Blaze.
Thank you.